Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Gwen, straight from down under. Is that what they call it? Australia. That's at least how we people call it that, are in Europe or are in the States. So I have Lemon with me. Lemon, hello. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good. It's great to be here.
Where does the lemon thing come from? Tell me.
The lemon, it's nothing special, honestly. I used to just like to put lemon juice with like water and just drink that.
Oh, that's so good.
And
And now everybody
like,
does it.
yeah, yeah, and just like lemon flavored things like lemon tarts, just all that stuff, just nice. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
I was like just coming up with an online name for games, it's like, well, just want like a simple word, something
Yeah.
slightly unique.
Now I'm hungry
Turns out it's not
because
as unique as I would have thought.
I thought about like lemon meringue pie. It's like, oh, so good. It's the combination of sweet and acidity. Oh man, damn.
Yeah, sweet and sour.
Yeah, when life gives you lemon, you change your name into lemon. You make lemonade.
Exactly.
That's not how it goes, Chad. It's the
Yeah.
other way around. It's 2 a.m. where you at, so I first of all want to thank you for coming on. It's super late, but we were talking before we started and before we went live that I always really appreciate when someone in a different time zone actually makes their schedule fit in order to make it to this. Because it's just incredible and just shows how much cool dedication is within the Gwent community, which I'm like super grateful for and super happy about. So thank you once again. And yeah, we're gonna get to know you a little bit better. And we're also going to talk about everything Gwent that happened this week, because actually there were things happening this week. So
Quite a bit.
yeah, quite a bit. So we'll move straight to that. So starting off, patch 11.2 launched on Tuesday, and with it patch notes. And on Monday we also had the developer video for that with me and Jean. Some people said this patch is maybe a little bit smaller when it comes to scale, but fret not. Our team, like we said in the video, is working on the next card drop, which is coming in April, so get ready for that. And we'll see what the next balance patch brings for the month of March. But sticking and going back to February, we had a new season start. All the seasonal info is at playgwent.com, and the news section, you can check it out there with Mr. Foltest as on the art. And we started the love event with chocolate hearts, which you can collect and spend them on vanities, which are connected to love, of course. And we have Geralt and his love interests, and also other characters from the Witcher universe. This event is actually time exclusive. It will end on February 22nd, so don't miss out. And yeah, these are the things that happened this week. It's been a good week. It's been an eventful week, and I always like when there's a lot going on. Yeah, so new patch. Did you have some time to check it out already, or maybe not yet? And how you finding the changes? At least maybe on paper.
I've had a little bit of time to play around with the patch. Played a bit of bounty. We saw a bit of bounty changes coming through. Think bounty could have quite a few nice matchups in the new meta when you're able to get like a huge grade and a huge brute online. It's really satisfying.
Yeah, fully agreed. What's your favorite like go-to faction after a update? When the update launches, like what are you checking out?
It feels like it really depends on like what got changed.
Okay, so you go straight to the ones that got changed, or do you stick to your guns and you kind of want to check out things, like check out how your deck or your favorite faction kind of, works against the new stuff? Like what's the combo?
It's a bit of both, I guess. Like I tried a bit of bounty, but for like a few Nilfgaard decks I'm quite interested in. I want to make spotter spam work. I think there's potential there.
There is
not
potential.
Going all in with like an operator, but when you're able to get like say a really boosted Nilfgaardian Knight in your deck with like the new Allgodden Offering, get it to like, I don't know, 14-ish points. Like it's 12, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
Like getting a spotter playing for like 16 points each. Like that's kind of crazy, right? Like a 16-point bronze.
But it sounds like fun, right?
Yeah, it's fun. The problem is it's you need to get it to work. But if you do, seems good.
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah, and
things that
also,
once it works, it gives you a lot of like this positive, good energy because you actually nailed it, right? It's one of those decks that, you know, when you pilot it, that either works or it doesn't. But when it works, you're like, oh man, it actually worked.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. So when did you join Gwent? Was it early beta days or was it later on? What was that journey for you?
I started playing just after Crimson Curse released.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
believe.
fairly early.
Yeah, so I unfortunately like didn't get to play any of the beta. So like you hear a lot of people talking about the favorite decks from beta, and I'm just like, it sounds really fun. Don't really know like what those decks were, but it sounds great.
It's actually better because you won't be comparing everything to how it used to be, right? Because I know there's a lot of players that played in beta that kind of, well, they kind of reminisce, but they also kind of treat it as, oh, back in that day, we used to have this and this and that. Well, it's kind of like, you know, stuff moved on, the game changed a lot, so it's hard to compare these. Like, of course, there are some things which are kind of going in the direction of you know, fixing archetypes and making archetypes viable, and also making them a little bit similar to what we used to have in terms of how the game played. So there is that, but it's very hard to, you know, like compare them one to one.
Yeah, it's quite easy as well. Like nostalgia, rose tinted glasses. I can only remember the good bits. Whereas I'm sure there were also some not so good bits that people forgetting quite easily.
Yeah, totally agree. Favorite, okay, so when you joined at that time after Crimson Curse, what were you playing at that time? What was your go-to or favorite thing, and how was the beginning?
Gosh, I have fun memories of just like Munsters back then, like Munsters, Gurney, Thrive, which was, I think, relatively meta back then.
Yeah, Blood Moon and all that stuff also was there.
Yeah, quite new player friendly as well. Like when Iron Judgment came out, you had like Igern providing you like just like the biggest boy monsters had seen to date.
Yeah,
it was just slap that in a deck with Ozreal. So much fun. My first time making it to pro was with like a Gurney deck in Harmony meta. I was running Erden, which, looking back, not the proudest part of it, but the Thrive was nice.
It worked, right? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's
like it's yeah. It's weird though, because like I got more serious sort of as time went on. Like, not sure how great I would say I was back then. Like in terms of like understanding what was like meta, like what decks are good, even like just strategy and like what to commit when. Like looking back, like I can feel like I've gotten much better as a player, you know?
Yeah. I think it all comes with just experience, right? That the more you play, the more games you go through, the more decks you kind of try, the more cards you try, you kind of see what works or doesn't work for you. And then based off of that, like, you know, I feel like in the beginning, you're just learning how things actually work. And then you get it to a point where you're actually optimizing the things based off of your own experience with them. So if, you know, you play something and you see by experience, like, okay, this worked out for me perfectly, but this could have been better. So maybe let's just swap these cards around and let's maybe, you know, go back to the drawing board and just change stuff up. And I feel like that is like the most important thing. That's where you grow as a player, when you're just able to adjust on the fly.
Yeah. And yeah, like I remember, for some reason, I remember like very specific a memory of like I was playing Shupenar and I ran into Synergy God on ladder. And like I was losing uneven terribly, right? Like there was no way in the world I was going to catch up. But then for some reason I committed Shoop like to barely get ahead.
Yeah.
Like Shoop was like my win condition, right? Like my most expensive card. And I used him round one, barely catching up. I think Synergy just played like a bronze after that. And then I had to pass because I couldn't spend anything else to catch up. And then I remember like after the game, watching the VOD back, like Synergy was, I think, quite confused by my commitment. And then looking back, I was also kind of confused. Like, what was I doing?
You thought that was that was the play, right? But you know, in that instance, sometimes it's just like, maybe not really.
No, it's like just it's crazy to just think how far like things change and
Yeah.
sort of just getting better. Like I guess year on year by now. It's crazy how long it's
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're right. And yeah, I also was thinking about it recently. Like, there's been so many years that kind of went into the development of the game. There's so many years that, and so many memories throughout, like the changes, the internal changes, but also how changes in the community happened, how the game was perceived in the beginning, what it is now, and kind of like there's a lot of stuff to kind of unpack from that, and how everything has kind of progressed and changed. It's just incredible. And also seeing the community grow, seeing also like teams like go around it. You're also one of the co-founders of Team Craft, right? So that's very, very awesome. Like a super great team with also a lot of people from Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like
And
originally we were more Australian, but we've
yeah,
sort of branched out a lot more recently.
exactly, which is super cool. So when did you decide that, were you already streaming when you started playing Gwent, or was it, or were you not streaming? And no, okay, so you started
I
streaming with
started
Gwent.
streaming like way later. Like it was sort of the first R2's World Cup happened, and at the time I was part of a Discord called, I think it was just Gwent OCE. It's like the Oceania Gwent community.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Which, yeah, and then, well, there's the World Cups. Like, let's put together a team for Australia, right?
Nice.
So I ended up, that was like my first ever tournament play. There was, what was the team? I think it was myself, Van and Munter, and Sushi Savlaki. Like, we were not expecting to do good at all, right? Like, you had lots of really great players, like actual pros playing in qualies, opens, and then you had us, like a bunch of sort of just, I would say not as experienced, and I was probably the least experienced of the bunch as well. But we won games surprisingly. Like,
good.
I can't remember what countries were there, but we ended up making it to the like final qualifying match. But I think if we beat Argentina, we would have made it into the actual main event.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we lost that like 2-1. But it was a really great experience. Like probably my fondest tournament memory. We were playing up to like 6 a.m. because time zones.
Yeah.
I think Sushi had to go to work the next day. And
man.
ended up going to work on no sleep. But yeah, like it was amazing. And then essentially like from that, we sort of kept together, and then it was from that Team Australia essentially that Team Creve formed. And then whilst we were like originally intending to sort of just get more of like an Australian and oceanic scene going, it sort of, well, as it happens, it kind of spreads beyond that.
Yeah.
And then there was like a discussion at some point about like the sort of Team Creve members trying to get into streaming. I decided, hey, I'll give it a bit of a go. Like I can try it, you know, don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And then one thing leads to another, sort of just grows a little bit upon a little bit, and then you get like a lot of friends and like a great community going.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like also like building a community. You're kind of starting from, you know, just pulling people that you kind of know are in the region and want to play at a more or less competitive level, but also want to like create content and want to, you know, make something out of this and like solidify yourself, which is really cool to actually have, you know, Team Creve start and actually keep that going, because, you know, there was also a lot of tournaments which you guys organized throughout the years and throughout this time. So yeah, it's also pretty cool. And I think you also have your new season starting, and there was already a qualifier for the Trial of Champions. I think it's like the most recent one, or no?
Yeah, so we had Trial of Champions at the end of last year.
Oh yeah, that was end of December.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, so you're on 3 leagues throughout the year. And then essentially the top 8 players from those were qualified into the Trial of Champions, which was our sort of first like bigger tournament. It was like our first prize pool tournament. It was really great. Like a lot of amazing players taking part, and a pretty like combination of just all these weeks of playing throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, just having people from a region, and also like, you know, it's really cool. I mean, maybe it's different for us, like here in Poland, like we kind of see like the teams forming and also like the pros being, and I also like, I feel like the teams that we had here kind of went just more global. Like if we look at, I don't know, Payable or Cams, which are Polish, and kind of, you know, they are from working, you know, they moved to a team which is kind of outside of Poland, but it's kind of was the way to go. But it's really cool that teams actually formed around Gwent, and you know that there were so many good players in them. And yeah, I also love that aspect. Like when I was very surprised when we started with Gwent, and the team started forming like very, very quickly and started making their own tournaments. That's also, you know, when we kind of wanted to introduce the tournament platform, but also that took some development time and stuff like that. But it's really cool to see that, you know, tournaments are still happening, seasons are happening. So kudos to you guys for keeping that going.
Yeah, it's nice. And like I think it's especially important, like as we look to the future of Gwent, like with the like especially for next year, like if we want there to still be more of like a competitive scene, it's going to be heavily reliant on like the community keeping it running.
Yeah.
I have no idea like what it's going to look like. I hope it's still there. I hope that players still want to play in it, because it's a lot of fun. And like in my opinion, like tournament play, organized play is a lot, I don't know about better, but to me it's a lot more interesting than just regular ladder.
I agree. It's more interesting, and I think it also gives the possibility to bring things which are just not, you know, the standard meta decks that you see and face on ladder all the time. That players actually bring things that are counter meta, or they're expecting other players or teams to bring something different to the table, and they're kind of, you know, working on variety in terms of like what they'll be playing, not just, you know, same cookie cutter deck, super optimized just for ladder purpose, and people are playing this, well then I'll tech in this, or I'll use this. So yeah, I also feel like competitive play just brings a little bit more to the table. Plus, I feel like, you know, if you're having tournaments with really, really good players from around the world, like joining in, they kind of bring a different flavor and a different play style to the whole thing, because some games are very, very like close, super tied. And it's always good to see. It's really good to see, and it's good to kind of, you know, experience. That's why I always, when we started doing esports in Gwent, like I really wanted to be very close to that, because I feel like, yeah, from esports is where kind of all the cool stuff kind of, that's where the cool stuff happens. Like apart from, of course, organizing the event, adminning the events in the beginning when they were still not online but in person. It was just really cool. Like it was something that I remember I always enjoyed. Even before that, when I played Magic and stuff like that, with going to local tournaments and playing like physical cards, I also enjoyed just the you know, the gameplay level, and also the amount of knowledge that you get from one of these. Like you learn a lot, even if you're working behind the scenes and actually organizing the thing, you learn a lot, but you're also learning a lot when you're actually playing in the event itself. Yeah, that's something that's always been really cool. So you started streaming just when you guys started Creve, and how was that for you in terms of like the arc from beginning to what it is today?
Yeah, so I'm admittedly kind of inconsistent when it comes to streaming. When I'm like not on a uni timetable, I'll be streaming decent amount, I'd say. Like in the last sort of month, particularly in the last Gwent season, the one that just finished, I was streaming a lot more because I was pushing for top 64. But yeah, like during uni season, or uni semester, I tend not to really stream as much because I try quite hard, I'd say, at uni.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm able to stream a lot more when it's not uni.
No, it's very hard to balance that out because I feel like university will just take a lot of time from your schedule.
Yeah.
Especially studying and preparing for everything. I think that's crazy. Out of curiosity, what are you majoring in?
So I'm doing a double degree in
Oh wow.
In science for one part and computer science for the other.
Damn.
So,
That's crazy.
yeah. For the science part, I'm aiming to just like major in maths. It's currently looking more like pure maths. In theory, I could major in applied maths as well, but I kind of just don't want to do differential equations. But, yeah.
Nice. And computer science. Jesus. Those are things which I was never really good at, like anything math related, or like computer science, like computer science, or going more into even like programming and stuff like that. Those were things which I was like, oh my God. I still have a lot of respect for people who pursue this stuff and actually are good at it. Because it takes a lot of studying, but also I feel like does it take a lot of repetition, like going and doing going through the motions and stuff like that, or not?
Depends. Like for some stuff, like maths, like if you're on a new sort of topic, I feel like you do need to just put a bit of practice into like really get some of the like processes or like how you do things down. I don't think I tend to do as much like sort of practice and revision for computer science, perhaps as I should. But we also don't really have tests for that either, so there's not as much of a need to. You can kind of just refer back to your notes or sort of online resources, which is nice.
Thankfully now we live in the world of online where everything is pretty much at your fingertip, which is amazing. And it's not something I still remember going to like the library to get books and stuff, which people still do, but now kind of, with the amount of information, it's crazy. But the problem, I feel like it's just getting solid and good information, because there's just a lot of information which feels very invalid, or just feels like, well, this isn't really, is this correct? Is this actually the way that it should be? Yeah,
it can be hard to like get like from the right sources, because like literally anyone can put anything online. Like if you have, as long as they can appear somewhat professional, it can be quite difficult to tell how much they actually know.
True. Circling back to Gwent, you never told me, I think, favorite like overall faction. Do you have like a favorite one?
I'd probably say Monsters.
Okay.
Just because from like just starting out, like still love like just a good old Thrive deck, which kind of ended up becoming more Relics, because it's sort of the same thing of like you build up your board a bit over time, but also have like these big sort of like point stammy plays you have. Apart from Monsters, I also like Nilfgaard quite a bit.
Control.
Control, but my favorite deck by far from Nilfgaard is Hyperthin, which I would say is a little bit more wholesome, slightly less on the control-y side of things.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one though. Like Hyperthinning is always nice. Yeah,
like just having the same goal every game of trying to thin your deck, just having one card in it.
Yeah.
Being able to do that consistently, it's just so satisfying. Like when you're able to, like, when we've now been running like with say Albrecht, you're able to get like an 18 power Albrecht. That's your final card in deck. You play your Yen, play your Triss, play your Zarthisius, boosting, damaging by 18 heaps of times. It's like one of the best feelings, and like that's something I don't think you can get as much in like other CCGs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You don't get that in other card games, right?
No, like, because we have quite small deck sizes in Gwent, right? Like I have to admit, I've not as familiar with stuff like Magic, like the more physical card games.
Magic is hard because there's 60 cards in your deck, and like standard and modern and stuff like that, and 100 in Commander. Commander is just like every game you sit down, there's going to be some weird different variation of cards. Well, that's why competitive Commander pretty much relies on you having as many tutor cards to pull out the cards that you need in order to like get your win conditions on the board. But without that, it's kind of just like, can I do it? Can I not do it? It's just like, it's a 50-50.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. I feel like we have a lot more tutors in Gwent compared to other CCGs as well.
Yeah.
Like from what I've seen of stuff like, again, because I'm not as familiar with the like physical ones, but stuff like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra, like your tutors, like there doesn't seem to be a card which is just like a player unit from your deck.
Yeah.
Which sounds simple, but it just doesn't really exist. Whereas in Gwent, it's like a pretty solid card. It's not too expensive, but you're able to do what you want in like most games. You're a lot less at the whims of like the RNG gods.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of Gwent players and a lot of people who gravitate towards Gwent kind of came in because of the fact of not having a lot of RNG. I remember this was something that I was very proud of when it came like to the early development of Gwent, that we're not RNG based. Like I remember when we got more RNG into the game and everybody was very unhappy about that. I remember I personally was also one of those people that was like, I don't really want to go in this direction. Like we want less and less RNG because of course we don't want the game to be like fully solved and predictable. Like there's some effects which kind of should feel like, because with RNG I have this split. Like on the one hand, like RNG that goes your way feels very good, but RNG that doesn't go your way just feels so bad. It's very hard to find the middle ground for these.
Yeah, and like personally, if I win a game just because of RNG, I find myself just feeling bad for the opponent.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I know if that went the other way, I would be like fuming. I would not be happy at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, did I really deserve that win? It's not like I really played better. I just got lucky.
Yeah, it's different when you lose because you make mistakes, and it's different when you kind of lose because of randomness and RNG. It's kind of, I feel like it just turns you off more into what you're playing, and you're kind of like, I ain't really having fun with this, so this is probably not the way to go.
Yeah.
So you also you also started playing more competitively. January season, if I remember correctly, you got to 36th place, yes. which is super nice. So you'll be moving on to the top 64 qualifier this month.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. Like it's like since that like first World Cup, like I've been more and more serious about Gwent, getting better, like playing in more tournaments. And like it had been like a goal or dream for like quite a while to get at least one top 64. Like that was just like what I wanted. Obviously, like it'll be amazing if I get like an Open or Masters. Like who wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah.
But top 64 at least felt attainable. So like something I know I would be able to achieve. I had like made a bit more of like a serious push in a few, specifically January seasons, because that's when we have like our summer holiday in Australia. Like no matter like if you're at school or uni, because I was still in high school when I first started playing Gwent.
Yeah, there's just more time to play and actually sit down and prep for this. And actually, but I mean, playing on Pro Ladder like takes a lot from you, like time, but also energy and stuff like that. But yeah, you also managed to get your first 2.6, so 2,600 to 2,605 with Syndicate, right?
Yeah, so it was literally just like the last day of the season, a few hours before the end. I was like, look, I've basically secured top 64. I'll play a little more. We'll just let's just do one last stream for the season, right? My Skellige, I think, was maybe 1 game off peak, and I was like 3 games off peak. Syndicate was like only 7 MMR off peak. I'm like, okay, we'll play Syndicate. Patch notes were just released. We saw Pulling the Strings was going to get nerfed to 6 provisions. I'm like, okay, well, we're probably not playing Pirates Cove anymore after the patch. Which, fair enough. Strings was pretty crazy at 5 provisions. That's probably also partly because that was the deck I took to 2600. So yeah, I was able to just jam that. I think I did like about like a 2.5 hour stream. I believe I only lost twice. The 2 losses were to Miamon and Pasha, which you can't be too annoyed
Yeah.
at losing to those two.
Yeah, you can. Piable made it quite high up on
Yeah.
the list.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is I'm pretty sure I would have actually been able to win that game had I like just saved my collusion like 1 turn earlier. Like it's one of those games that just like sticks with you. You're like, if I had played that slightly differently,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I would have won it.
But it's always with close games, like especially on the pro level, like it sometimes goes back to the sequencing of playing cards. Like maybe I should have played this here or maybe later, and it's like it's always though gets into your head too. But I feel like when you have more time to analyze it and think about it is like when you come up with the solution how you should have played, right?
Yeah. But yeah, towards the end of the stream, I was like, well, I need to go soon, so I'll do one more game. I'm like, if we lose this, I'll leave it. If we win it, we should get to 2600, and then I'll be able to leave it there as well. I win the game, and then I go to 2599,
which is like almost there.
Which was the win, but didn't actually make it. So I'm like, okay, fine, we'll just do one more quick game. Luckily, I was able to get the win and
nice.
Made it in the nick of time, because if I lost that game, I was gonna leave it there. And well, I got close, but just have to get it another season.
Yeah, well, it's really cool that you also streamed it, right? Because I feel like a lot of people that go pro, they don't want to. It's because they're afraid of sniping, afraid of showing their lineups, afraid of showing what they're playing. So people are like, on the pro scene, everybody kind of wants to see what everyone is doing, and kind of if they run into that person, like, oh, I know what he's playing, right?
Yeah, which you kind of get to know, like with some of the top players, like when you're in higher MMRs, like if I saw a Renfree's tactical decision list, I knew it was probably Pasha. Like, because he was the only one playing that, at least at the time I was playing. Because, again, time zones, I don't play when a lot of the European players are playing, because they're like usually asleep. So it's a lot more like limited, the kind of pool of players that I'm playing against. But yeah, like one of the things I love though is when you get like a really good player streaming, like Paja, Danaray, Kirpiton, Alcalora, like being
you
able
learn
to
a lot
watch
from
like
those.
what they do, what they play, like how they approach matchups. You learn a lot. And then like even for myself, like I wouldn't consider myself nearly as good as like those players. But being able to talk with like other players, because like there are some pretty good players, I would say, that also like hang out as well, like when I'm streaming. Also helps like to stay focused to some degree. Like for me, I kind of have like a hard cap of 4 hours when I'm trying to be serious while streaming. Like once I get there, I notice my concentration is just like dipping, start to misplay a lot. But like being able to just stream, I'm like, okay, for the next like 3-4 hours, I'm just playing Gwent. I'm focusing hard, and I'm just gonna try and win as much as I can.
Yeah, it's also
like, a lot.
It's a lot of energy, and also keeping your focus on for quite a long time. I mean, 4 hours streaming is difficult, especially playing on a higher level, like a super high level, and interacting with people, and having those elements there is it's draining, right? It's very draining to a longer extent. But also you can, like you said, since it's like a summer break, you can focus on it more. Yeah. So what are...
It's often... I was just gonna say, like often, like I would like do a stream, and then because I'm like serious about climbing, I could have a bit of a break with like dinner, chill a bit, and I'll just try and ladder a bit more in the evening till I sort of get kind of like too tired, and I'm just like, okay, again, like I can't focus anymore. Time to stop.
Yeah, but it's good that you also know like when to stop, because I feel like that is also something that kind of comes with experience, because normally when you're playing, like, you're so focused and you really want to climb, and I feel like you get to a point where it becomes detrimental, because you know that you don't have any more energy, and it's like it's time to stop, but you still want to kind of keep on going because you want to progress and ladder up, but it's working against you, because less focus means more errors, more mistakes, and suboptimal plays, and then you're like, maybe I should have stopped here. But it comes with experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, because I know personally, Like if I get a faction like even 30 MMR off peak, like
Mm-hmm.
that's really demoralizing to me because I know I'm gonna have to win like 4+ games basically to get back to peak, and then
Mm-hmm.
only then I'm gonna be able to climb again. Like
Yeah.
I need to make sure that doesn't happen because if it does, I'm probably just it's really tough for me to pick that faction back up again.
Yeah. You're starting from scratch pretty much, so it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So what are your plans after the qualifier, like the February top 64 qualifier? Like if of course if you make it to open, that's easy, then you're looking forward to that. But if not, based on your busy schedule and uni, like will you still have like a month or something to where you will dedicate more time in order to play and play on ladder and try to qualify once again?
Not too sure yet
Mm-hmm.
because uni for me starts like early March, so I still have most of this season I can play quite seriously, I'd say.
Yeah.
Of course, it's more efficient to play later in the season just because that's when you're on average getting more MMR per game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get a good start early on in the season, then you're like most of the way there as well. Um, I I want to do a better job this year, at sort of like balancing uni with Gwent and being able to play more Gwent. I also feel like compared to when I've previously tried to like be a bit more competitive, like I'm able to get like a lot better win rate. I think I had like a 65% win rate
Mm-hmm.
for last season, which
That's
is
pretty nice.
not too shabby.
It's pretty nice.
It's like if I'm able to sort of keep that up, even like maybe not lose slightly more,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll be able to just like be a whole lot more efficient and need slightly less games maybe to do it.
Yeah, I think that's always kind of the thing that players on a high level kind of strive to is actually playing the least amount of games possible, but also getting the best results possible. Which I feel like, of course, yeah, that makes sense. But sometimes you see players also like grinding the hell out of it in order to climb, and that's I feel like
Yeah.
that kind of feels like it becomes a chore at one point that you're just jamming so many games that it's crazy.
It can be like that, but if you're enjoying it, then
Yeah.
like it's like nowhere near as bad. Because one thing I noticed is that I think particularly like Paja and Lirio, like when they did their like end of season tweet for the January season, like they specifically mentioned how much they had been like enjoying the like most recent season,
Yeah, I also
and
saw
that
that,
like
which is really cool to see.
they yeah like they didn't need to play as many games. I think like Lirio took all 6 factions to 2600,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously on your top 4 counts, you don't have to be playing all 6 factions, but if you're enjoying it, then like go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
It's just
cool.
like
Yeah, also when there's like positive reaction on balance on a given month, it's always uplifting. I can see it also from like the team that is responsible for gameplay and for balance that they're happy when there is a good reaction and there's a good reaction from the competitive scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I was gonna say something else on that note, but I can't remember now.
I kind of I kind of interjected and probably kind of the idea flew away. It happens all the time. I have the same thing when I'm talking to someone and then I'm thinking about something and I want to say something and I was like, what was I gonna say? And it's like, yeah, classic, especially on meetings and at work and stuff like that. But yeah, getting the best possible like win lose ratio and also getting like 65% win rate is really good. It's really good.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is like when you're talking about like efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much like you read on like Lero Hub,
Mm-hmm.
like all the sort of like really in depth like
Yeah.
charts, like discussion about like the maths in Gwent.
It's
Like
very. I think it's too smart even for me. It's like very in depth in that sense. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel similarly. Like the ladder efficiency index (LEI), which you also see on like gwentdata.com.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's sort of weird because like I like to look at the MMRs that like players achieve and like myself as well. It's also like you look at the number of games played,
Yeah.
and then it's like this player was able to get like a really good score in like not that many games at all. I think one that stood out last season was it Serger maybe?
I think
I
so.
think came 5th in
I think
like
so.
relatively little games, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like if you're able to ladder well in like not many games, like to me that's super impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive to me too. Like to see it and seeing on, such a high level, it's just incredible. Incredible. And I also see that, players have been kind of saying to us that, balance is very good. I know that with this patch, maybe players were kind of expecting a little bit more changes coming in, but I feel like with the focus kind of being more on the new cards and also the cards that we need to work on throughout the rest of this year, like all these things are kind of things which we're focusing on. And I know there's also a little bit of maybe anxiety among the community because they feel like, okay, we only have this year and then balance will be kind of go in a different direction. Also, there's like a lot of cards to tweak and stuff like that, but we're trying to do as good of a job as possible in order to get those things running and also getting everything going as like it's supposed to be throughout this year. So it's gonna be interesting for sure, and I actually want to see what will happen after this year. But yeah, trying to make as much of this year is kind of the priority and it's the most important thing. Yeah, also kind of
because a lot of the reworks we see can be quite impactful. Like when I was streaming earlier today, I was trying a bit of like a Skellige witches list. One that like Rogue Bros had been talking to me a bit about. And like the new Axii, like just being able to seize like something with like the number of witches on your aura, like that's a pretty powerful ability.
That's a very cool ability.
Yeah. Like there's more reason to run stuff like your Bear Witch Mentors now, for example. Like I think I was laughing like a maniac when I was hitting like 18-point Bear Witch Mentor, like after getting a huge like offering at the sea. And then following that up with like the new Commander's Horn. Like it's quite nice to just see like all the new pieces each patch gives you.
Yeah. New Commander's Horn is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like it doesn't take too much of like, sometimes it doesn't take too many changes, just like have like a nice little sort of like breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And yeah, like speaking of Commander's Horn, I expect to see a bit more of it this season than I was seeing already.
Yeah, hopefully. That's kind of the idea. I feel like it's one of those OG cards that you want to see a little more play because it's just cool. It's cool, and it's a cool ability. It's an OG ability. So I know it also got changed. It also got tweaked. It also got some nerfs on it. So hopefully now players will be like, okay, I actually wanna check this out and play a little bit more with it. But yeah, it's a cool card. So anything that you'll be looking forward to in terms of playing this season, or it's too early to say like what you'll be focusing on?
It's quite early to say, I'd say still. You can kind of try to make predictions about like what the meta is going to look like and how it's going to shape up. I mean, I think a lot of people, I'd say myself included, expect Melitele to still be top tier, particularly on ladder.
Yeah.
Not sure how that would like change going into the qualifier, because like let's say you just run like a Quax in your deck, then you'll match up against Melitele as a whole lot. So I'm at least hoping we don't have everyone playing Melitele in qualifiers, but
maybe
if because if like everyone is running Quax against like trying to target Melitele, that will be quite an interesting qualifier to say the least.
Or just people will be playing a lot of bounty to counter like Melitele, right?
Yeah, because Melitele can't do a whole lot to do with bounty. They don't have that much control.
I think both will be very strong. I'm waiting to see how it will kind of pan out, and I can't wait for like more tournament action, because that's what I kind of always miss in the off season. Like the end of the year, beginning of the year, and then the beginning of the competitive, and actually seeing players like play a little bit more, like stream, and also then seeing like I was sending out today the email to the top 16. I'll be probably sending out soon the next email to the top 64, like a week before the event. So yeah, I just love that part of it also too. Like I mentioned, it's like esports was one of the things that I was very, very, very close to when it comes to Gwen, and still am close to it. So love that aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Would you ever envision that you'll be taking this so seriously and like working on Creve and also like building a community? Like when you were just starting to play, would you ever like think like, wow, this is gonna be a whole big thing?
Not really, because when I started playing Gwent, how many years ago was Crimson Curse now? Like it was just after Homecoming. I'm not
Has to be
sure.
17 or 18. Actually, I can actually pull that up.
Like 4 or 5 years or something.
Something like that
Like,
for sure.
yeah,
I'll
like
find it. Introducing Crimson Cursed, March 4th, 2019.
right. So that's 4 years ago now, then, right? I
Yeah.
should be able to do maths like that, right? Like, I should,
but you know
I
how
always, like,
time
trip up
works.
whether I'm
Time is kind
counting
of
it
like
right.
this weird thing that you feel like you
Yeah.
don't know how much time has passed since something happened.
No, it's all blends together. Yeah, like that was 4 years ago. And like YouTube, Twitch, like all that stuff, it seemed like so much more distant. Like it like because realistically, like anyone can like just get like a put a Twitch stream on, right? Like you don't need any specialized knowledge. Actually getting viewers is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But like the sort of divide, I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense, but like all these sort of creators seems like a whole like different like sort of level of like play kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm like I'm like never gonna be like that good, that sort of like charismatic, that like entertaining, right? But yeah, like it sort of just it changes.
I think it kind of grows
When
on
it
you,
like
right? So like you start and you kind of don't know like what to expect. And I also kind of, this was something that I was even talking to someone this week, like, you know, when you're starting in the beginning and like doing your first streams or doing your first like video content, you're like, you don't know like what to expect. And then when you actually make the first ones and they, you know, the first ones are always the ones that you kind of go back to like, oh my God, I look like a doofus, or oh my God, it's like, who would have watched that? What was I doing? But it's kind of the, you know, you learn a lot. You learn how to interact with the chat. You learn how to interact with the camera. You learn how to talk, how to fill in the blanks and, you know, the like the space. And it's just, you know, it's a learning curve. It's like a whole thing. That's why, you know, some people are, you know, super entertaining and people tune into their stuff because they bring something new and unique. And you need to kind of think like, you know, if you want to create something cool for people that is bringing like a lot of positivity, then why shouldn't you be doing this, right?
Yeah, and like you don't like, from my perspective, like it sort of depends on like why you're doing it, right? But like you don't need to aim for like hundreds of thousands of views. Like even if you just have like a few people talking in chat, like that's like amazing, right? Like that's people who like want to watch you play. They want to hang out with you. Like they want to like see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I was quite lucky because when I started streaming, I already had like a few friends. Like I was already barely involved with like the Gwent community. Which, and like once you have like a sort of bit of a following, it's like or not a following, but like once like a few people know you, you're able to get like more people to know you. It's like you're much more likely to like hop onto a stream with like 10 viewers than a stream with 1 viewer, right? And like that helped a lot.
And that's how you build a community,
on, like,
right?
the Creve Discord. Yeah.
That's pretty much how you build a community. You start from, you know, a very smaller, let's say, you know, number of viewers and kind of people who tune in, who enjoy what you're doing. And there's like 1, 2, 3, and then, you know, there's more and more and more. And then you're kind of like, hey, this is actually, you know, we're getting some viewers, we're building a community. And that's also when kind of a lot of people like start thinking about like Discords or start thinking about, you know, starting maybe like a team or a place where just people can hang out and you know, to talk to one another because we're all talking about the same stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's weird because I feel like I did it in the opposite order to what you said there. Like, I think you were saying like more the stream usually comes first, and then you kind of go into like more Discord and community.
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of the reverse because we had like a large focus on events, really, and it was like sort of from there. Like I was already like part of a team, and then it's like I guess like I could start streaming, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when it comes to the events, I have like a lot of nostalgia for like the first events you were running. We used to run like these weekly meme tournaments
Yeah. Oh,
with like
those
special
sound like
rule
the best
sets.
ones.
Yeah, like it was like just a Friday night. There was usually like less than 8 of us, I think. So like just like play it all in one night.
Nice.
Like we would do things like gold only decks, stuff like your deck could only have cards starting with like the first half of the alphabet or the second half. You
Those
could
are
only
the
have cards
best.
of either even or odd provisions. Like it was a lot of fun. It's like the crazy thing is, do you know like Santu, right? Like Santu, who was like really amazing player. Like I think he had like played in an open by this point.
Yeah.
Like he was like joining in like our weekly, like our really small like meme tournaments. He was like joining in and playing on them. It was like crazy how like such a good player was like joining us. He of course like won, I think basically everyone he participated
Of
in.
course.
But that's
But it's also the
beside the
aspect of playing maybe more in a in a laid back environment, or also trying different things and also having just fun with the game. I feel like that's also very important because just playing on ladder, playing on pro is just like it's 100% focus. It's very serious, and then if you can beam tournaments are something that I feel like a lot of people in the community, also a lot of players have been saying like, this is, something that I want to check out because it's just more laid back, but it's also just fun, like pure fun of playing the game.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to like, when you're playing in like these sort of more community tournament type stuff, you get to know the people playing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Tends to be the same players. When we held our first league, it was Oceania League because that was back when it was still called Gwent OC. And we got way more players than we were expecting. Like, because there was already at that time, I think it was just called Gwent League. That was hosted by like Phoenix and Santu and Wilson, I think, were like the main organizers for that, which was like heavily, I guess, like influenced by like Team Aretusa.
Yeah.
And our goal was we kind of wanted more of like a Australian sort of friendly league.
Yeah.
Because again, like with time zones.
Time zone especially, right?
Yes, it can be hard to organize a time to play with someone like Europe. It's pretty common you're playing like around midnight or whatever. But didn't really end up working out like that. You had people from all over the world joining. Like we weren't restricting it. So what was meant to be like Oceania League wasn't very Oceania in the end. It was more just another sort of Gwent League.
Yeah, you kind of need to cater to the wider audience, right? At one point.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember how many players we had. Like I was probably expecting we'd get like 20 would be a lot. I think we got at least like 40, which was crazy for like the first sort of league we were running. And then sort of since then, we've like grown a bit. We've got like more and more players, and you sort of see the same faces coming again and again. So we're on season 7 of Creve League, and that was like after the first Oceania League we rebranded. So that's our 8th season now. If there's like 3 in a year, does that like that's what like 2.5 years, I guess, of like running these leagues. That's longer than I realized.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? And it flies by so quick, but it kind of does when you're having fun and when you're creating something, out of just pure passion and fun. And it's funny that you mentioned that you wanted it to be just like Oceania and kind of centered around your time zone, but then it kind of grew into becoming thing that is more international. And I feel like whoever is treating Gwent on a more maybe not always just competitive, but also wants to just be taking part in events and tournaments, since it's an online client, you can pretty much play from anywhere. and still have fun, have the interactions, get to meet people, get to talk to people, get to play against like super good players within the field. And it's like all these things put together, it's just, you're having so much fun.
Yeah, and yeah, like the fact you can literally play against anyone in the world, like no matter where they are, is like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm in Australia, I can play with someone in Poland,
Yeah.
and like have a sort of discussion with them afterwards, like, damn, like you played really well. Like I never would have thought to play this card in this way. Like I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, also that aspect of it, like having the possibility to learn and better your plays and in a field where you're actually playing against, you know, live people. I don't know if this is also something that is very common within the online community. I would say yes, but it's also like when you're playing like physical cards, the fact of sitting down and playing against someone and then actually getting some tips or feedback from that person after the game, or kind of, oh, you should have maybe played this here. I know not everybody likes that because some people like don't like getting like critique, but I think for the most part, a lot of us kind of want to know like what could have been done better, or it's just, or just someone, you know, throws something your way. Maybe you should have tried this, and it kind of, it sparks a conversation, or it gets you kind of thinking like, oh, maybe I should have done this and this and that, right?
Yeah, like personally, I'm like always looking to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to be better, you basically after each game, like I'm sure you would have heard it, you have to like sort of ask like what went wrong, what could I have done better.
Yeah.
And to have like, as long as they're sort of saying it in a nice manner,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm happy to like hear like what
Yeah.
I could have done differently, and like sort of discussing in post.
Yeah,
Like,
it's always
sort of
good.
in that vein, yeah, like prepping for tournaments is like where I feel like I've learned like the most about like metas and sort of like how things play. Like back when I was like playing in leagues a bit more, like I remember like really learning a lot about like the Skellige Warriors versus Arrakis Swarm, like, well, not mirror, but like matchup, like from both sides. I remember like doing quite a few like scrims of that with like B Fox. It was amazing.
Yeah. Also the whole
Even,
the whole prep for it, like going in between and testing with other people from a team, or testing with friends the matchups and seeing how they play out from both sides. It's super like in depth and insight into things. That's why I feel like, you know, a lot of players that are performing very well, like they're always thankful to their team, because it's their pretty much practice group and play group in which they can, you know, just iron out the details when it comes to how a deck should be piloted, but also what should be in the deck and kind of the whole lineup and matchup.
yeah, and yeah, like I was lucky enough, like I think Sheath like had no teammates really like online at this time. And well, again, time zones, I was awake. So it was like, hey, are you like free? Can you like play a few games like with me? And he really wanted, like he was, I think, targeting Hyperthin, running a Hyperthin target matchup, like lineup, running like a free merchant in like most of his decks. So like we just like, I was Hyperthin, he was like, I think just the mid-range syndicate flavor of the month. And we just like jammed heaps of games. Like I learned, like basically, I need to use this card to answer this one in particular. Do I take a long round? Because I can actually win a long round because like my Wanderers protects from bounty, and like, yeah, there's like a lot of like these small things like you just remember, and like you remember really fondly.
Yeah.
Like, just all these like memories, these like sort of like friendships, I guess.
Yeah, those stay with you. And like you mentioned, the friendships, and once again, like circling back, it's the thing that we said in the beginning, but also the thing we said before we started talking. It's just kind of the community aspect of it, and kind of building this community based off of people who pretty much enjoy the same thing, right? Because we're all kind of enjoying Gwent as it is, and having fun with it and playing it on different levels. But, you know, it's kind of this common language that brings us together.
Yeah.
It's always incredible. I'm always super thankful for like, you know, being in a place where I was, and, you know, being able to be working on the game for the last like 6 or even almost 7 years. It's been quite the journey, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Before,
a long way.
Yeah, it's a long way. Before Gwent, did you ever like play any other card games, or were you like checking out other CCGs and stuff like that, or not really?
Not really. Like I very, very briefly tried Hearthstone, but didn't really keep up with it. Like
I had
it
the
felt
same
like,
thing.
yeah, like I don't know what it was exactly, but it just felt like I wasn't able to like properly, like it just didn't captivate me, I guess. And then like I tried Gwent because I played The Witcher 3. I feel like it's a very common story, you know, like
Yeah.
play The Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's why I was
Gwent minigame
wondering if
there.
it's from Witcher or if it's just from card games, because it's either one of these two.
Yeah. Yeah, it was for Witcher for me. And I don't know why, but it took me ages to realize like there was actually a Gwent standalone game. And I think it was like when I was going like and starting a second playthrough, I realized that there's like an actual like Gwent by itself, and gave that a go. Found it like really interesting. I probably also like did get like a lot more involved, like after like I joined sort of like the Discord and communities a bit more, playing in like that first World Cup. Like once you know a few people, like it's a lot easier to like get involved in it.
Yeah. They kind of show you like where to go, where to check out what, and kind of pave the way already.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're able to discuss like this deck is like interesting, like it's good, but like it's a lot, like you get more attached to things like if a friend gives you a deck, right, than if you just took it from a meta snapshot, right?
Yeah, like taking it from a meta snapshot, like just not decking it straight and not having someone like explain stuff to you. Or also I feel like it's also cool whenever, you know, I'm looking for any deck to play, like seeing like a good explanation behind it, or just a video with kind of like the minute details that are kind of how to play it, how to use it, what to do with it, and kind of I feel like someone who has a lot of experience with it, it's pretty much just really cool, and gives you like the fine details, which I feel like figuring that out by yourself, like it's doable, but it just takes so much more time.
Yeah, like like a really in-depth guide done well on like a deck is amazing. Like going into what cards you want to play in what rounds, like how to approach each matchup. Like it's amazing. Like I was looking through like my Google Drive like a couple weeks ago, and I found like a Google Slides sort of mini guide I did for a co-op for an Elf Madoc list, which I went so in depth on that with
Madoc
like,
was
so
awesome.
much justification in text. I'm like, wow, I like put way too much effort into that probably.
Good.
It was worth it.
No, I feel
It
like
was
people
worth it.
enjoy that. Like they just enjoy that, and kind of, you know, have fun with it, and just wanna know the ins and outs. And I totally understand that, and I like that. And it's also for me, it's better when someone lays it out for me. And yeah, perfect. Yeah. Cool. We've been running over an hour. I know it's like 3 a.m. Where you are, and I think we should put a pin in it. But thank you for once again staying up, taking the time, being part of the community, and also, you know, sitting down to talk everything Gwent.
And thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. And your insight is incredible. I love talking to people who play the game on a very high level, because it's always bringing something new to the table, but also your story with the game is something that is really cool. And I love to hear them and can't get enough of these.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for the talk. And we shall see each other most likely next week. So take care. Cool. Bye-bye.
See you.